Good evening. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Number 3, awards and recognition.
All right. And we're here. Can you hear me?
I'll just be, okay, there we go. Good evening, everybody. We have the opportunity this fine evening to recognize 2 middle school teachers in our district in partnership with the Scott County Education Association. I believe President Case Bolt, are you here somewhere? There you are. I knew she was here somewhere. All right. We're going to start with Miss Julie Borgell, a teacher at Scott County Middle School. Miss Borgell, we had, yes, go, yes. With these presentations, we always collect, come on up. We always collect information from our students and staff, and our students and staff, this is what they had to say about you. They said, Miss Borgell is the ultimate professional with an abundance of kindness and patience for children. She extends this kindness and patience to all students at Scott County Middle School, not just those that happen to be in her class. Students seek her out to share the details of their lives on good and bad days, and she's always listed as one of their most favorite teachers. She holds students accountable and has a loving way of guiding them and helping them understand and take responsibility for their actions. She's an asset to Scott County Middle School, Scott County Schools, and the teaching profession. At this time, please help me in honoring Miss Julie Borgell. All right, next up, we have Miss Betty Stanek from Royal Spring Middle School. We spent some time together, was it a few summers ago?
Yeah.
A few summers ago, with principal selection, so we got to know each other pretty well then. Some of the things that were said about Miss Stanek is that she goes above and beyond for every student and staff member in the building. She easily builds positive relationships with all students, and she loves to celebrate their success. She's a strong communicator and works hard to keep everyone informed. Ms. Stanek is a leader among leaders and serves on numbers of committees at the school, helping to guide colleagues to reach their highest potential. She is intentional in welcoming new staff members to the school and has an open door policy for all staff and students who do not hesitate to call on her when needed. Please help me in congratulating Miss Betty Stanek.
I appreciate you.
All right, there you go. That concludes our recognition.
All right, wonderful. Thank you so much. And thank you for joining us this evening. We greatly appreciate it. Number 4, agenda approval.
Second.
All in favor? Those opposed? Motion carries. Number 5, public comment. Skeeter Stokely. How are you? With just a few people on public comment tonight, we just ask that you take 5 minutes and say what you would like to say. All right. Thank you.
For allowing me to comment. There's nothing more precious and important to us than our children. We have a responsibility as parents and mentors and educators to love them, to show and teach them compassion, empathy, to teach them to lead, to love their country, and to know its true history. We are all equal. We're all brothers and sisters in Christ. We're taught to love one another as we do ourselves. There's no place for division or CRT or any of this transgender nonsense. The board has had ample time to make a good, educated decision. Instead of choosing measures that preserve our children's liberties and freedom, you consistently have chosen ambition, power, control, and money. You allow the federal government to bribe and coerce you. As academics and educators, you failed to do your own research and took the word of our government agencies because they said so. That was good enough for you. It was a decision that came with money and control. This event exposed your character. We as citizens and parents have a responsibility to see to it that none of you serve public office in our city or county anymore. I think you are all good people, but just made some bad decisions. We know how to hold you to account. We know how to file a claim on your surety bonds or umbrella liability insurance policies. And in doing so, those entities will investigate a claim that has been presented to them. Then the burden of proof is yours. Actual peer-reviewed evidence of why children are at risk, proof of efficacy of mask, quarantining and distancing, scientific, repeatable evidence. We are voting you out when your term is up. If you return to poor decision making, in the meantime, you will be recalled. Thank you.
Thank you. Courtney? How are you?
Hey, I'm good. How are you all today?
Very good, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I'm grateful for you all, first of all. I just want to say that. I'm Courtney Casebolt. I'm here speaking on behalf as president of the SCA. I'm addressing the board today to ask that you grant COVID relief days for employees who were quarantined from work due to positive tests, being quarantined through exposure, or having a dependent quarantine. Scott County educators have taught in person throughout this school year and have thus been exposed to COVID on a daily basis. This has been the operational plan of Scott County Schools since the first day of school. The burden of covering sick days due to COVID has fallen on individual employees, not Scott County Schools, which has asked these employees to work in conditions where COVID is ever present. It is reasonable that Scott County Schools join the majority of surrounding counties and large employers within Scott County in addressing the concern by implementing COVID relief days. Scott County House Representative Philip Pratt agreed that I use his statement when addressing the board today. Pratt stated that he owns a local lawn service company, and if one of his employees at work tests positive, then he provides them with COVID sick days. Pratt stated that he supports Scott County School District using local ESSER funding to provide COVID relief days to teachers and staff. The shortage of days affects pay, retirement, years of service, staff, mental and physical health, and particularly women facing maternity leave or wanting to start a family. SCA asks that the district support these educators by implementing COVID relief days retroactively for the 2021-2022 school year up to 10 days. We have supplied the board with data from over 300 teachers who overwhelmingly support this measure, along with their comments on the issue. The comments speak to the hardship many district employees have faced due to using their own personal days for COVID-related absences. This is a cost-effective way to show gratitude and appreciation to educators for their efforts over the course of the pandemic. Thank you for your consideration. I appreciate it.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
thank you.
Thank you for joining us this evening. Okay, number 6, consent agenda items 6A through I.
Move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Number 7, approve items for surplus.
Second.
Do you have that, Corinda? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Number 8, approve concrete foundation work bid for Georgetown Middle School Stadium replacement.
Move. Second.
All in favor? Those opposed? Motion carries. Number 9, student achievement report. Good evening. Looks like we might need to grab another chair.
I'll give it.
two things in front of you. You have a copy of the PowerPoint, just in case you wanted that for you. And then you also have all the data in tables. So instead of just going over the data tables, I've provided all those numbers for you, but have the data on the slides as more visual to guide our discussion, so that you have all of that data for you. And then in your packet that you received earlier in the week from my email, it has even more data in there as well. So we're going to talk about our winter benchmark data. So I wanted to start with our primary reading data. So we give next steps to guided reading to all K through 2 students. This is going to monitor their reading level on an individual basis. It's given on a one-on-one assessment. So you can see we track what % of our students are reading on grade level. So right now, we currently have 48% of our primary students reading on grade level. So you can see first grade, we went from 36% to 44%. And in second grade, we went from 44% to 52%. Ultimately, by 23-24, we want 100% of those second graders reading on grade level before they go to third grade. But we feel like we're making strides. What we're seeing in the classroom, our data is showing that they're making growth. What we're doing is working, and we feel like by 23-24, we're not going to have a problem meeting our goal. Then you can see we also give another assessment that actually looks at phonics and monitors our structured literacy initiative. So not only can they read, but can they decode those words and use those phonics skills. So we give both just to kind of get a good picture. Right now, this year, we're only giving it to first grade because we wanted to give that and make sure that that was the assessment we wanted to give, and then next year we will expand that. Basically, you can see on the left, those are our district scores, and then on the right is the national norm, which I feel very comfortable with where we are because we're right where the norm is. And our students are growing adequately, so we feel like that is proof that what we're doing with phonics and our structured literacy initiative is working. So let's move into math. So you have all these tables. This is on page 2 with your data tables. But what I gave you were the last 3 years. But what I want you to keep in mind is that's just fall to winter to those years. So both of those first 2 columns are pre-pandemic because we didn't give it last year. So we're comparing pre-pandemic to this year. And this is just going to be our students who made growth, so any growth on their RIT score. And what you can see is it's pretty close overall. We didn't have huge dips. And in fact, some grade levels, like middle school, actually had a higher increase than they've had before. Currently, we have about 77% of our students who made growth on math. Ultimately, by 23-24, we want to get back to that 100% making growth every time that they take math. But I feel very comfortable with the 77% in our ability to really get back to that 100. You can even see in second and third, they're really close to that 100% goal line at the top. In reading, we had 71% of our students make growth. You will see in a minute that their achievement scores in reading were slightly higher, so I think that that accounted for more growth in math. They were starting out a little bit lower. You have second and third grade that are getting closer to that 100%. And then you have 6th and 7th grade that actually improved from previous years. So again, our students are growing, and we feel like what we're doing is working, and we're on track to reach those goals that we've set for ourselves. So then this growth is going to look at, did they make that year's worth of growth or meet their actual growth projections? So not just did they make growth, but are they making enough growth, or the growth that we want? And you'll see that these numbers are slightly lower than the previous numbers. So what we know is that they're making that growth, but right now they're just not making as much as we would want. But that's okay, because they have a lot of gaps that we're trying to fill, and we're trying to push them forward. So you can see in math, we had 46% of our students across the district who met our growth projection. Primary took a bigger hit in math, but what we're seeing with some of our other data sources is they really are growing. In primary, we're lucky we have lots of data available to us to look at those students. And so the other data sources are really triggering the guided math and what they're doing. Our new curriculum maps really are pushing them forward with that. Ultimately, we want to get back to 60% of our students in math meeting that growth projection. But again, I don't think it's unreasonable at all for us to get from 46 to 60. We still have 2.5 years to get there, so I think we're on track to exceed that goal. Then you have 51% of our students who met their growth projection in reading. 4th, 6th, and 7th grade went up. So they're on track. Ultimately, what we want in reading is we were already higher, so we wanted to get to 65% meeting that growth projection. But we really are on track to hit that goal as well. And half of our schools, if you look at individual schools and grade levels, half of them are really close already to that 65% goal. And Northern, Garth, and Southern all have grade levels already that are reaching that goal. So we're really proud of the work that they're doing. And middle school, most of their grade levels are around that 55% mark. So they're really stretching to that goal as well. So shifting from growth, let's look at achievement. So this is just looking at the percent of our students who are at that 60th percentile, which is going to be that proficient level where we want to get to. Ultimately, we want to get back to that, get to the 51st, and then we really want to push to the 60% proficient distinguished. What you're going to see is typically there is always a drop. I've looked at all of our trend data, and you have that in your original packet from my email. But there's usually a drop of about 3 to 8% from fall to winter. But we didn't see that significant of a drop this time. So I think that was positive. We are performing better in reading than we are math, which we fully anticipated. There are a lot of splintered skills in math that we're trying to recover from. It's much easier to spiral in those reading skills and recover from that. But we feel like with reworking our curriculum maps in math, teachers are really making great strides in that. We also feel like with the growth that we're having, we continue with the growth that we're currently having, achievement will follow. So you can see that right now, currently 32% of our kids across the district are at that 60th percentile. So we really want to push to that 50 and to that 60. But again, I feel confident that we're on track to do that. And you have some grade levels that are closer than others, especially in you're looking at 3rd through 8th for testing grades. In reading, again, slightly higher, we have about 43% who are hitting that proficient mark. You can see that 2nd grade, 3rd grade, and 5th grade all improved from the fall. And in reading, we're a lot closer to that 50 mark, which is going to be way easier to push us to 60% proficient, especially by 23-24. Once we looked at this data, the getting to 23-24 goals seems very manageable in where we currently are sitting. So let's shift from math and let's look at high school for our USA Test Prep data. So we're going to look at the average score in fall with each of those grade levels and then the average score in winter, and we're going to look at each of those subjects individually. So let's look at English. So the English benchmark is 18 for the state. So you can see the average growth from fall to winter. We did drop in English, and because of this was a little bit surprising to us that we would drop. So I went ahead and looked at the assessment, and then I had an English teacher look at the assessment because they have more expertise than I do in looking at an ACT English assessment. And there were 3 things that we noticed from the fall to the winter assessment, because we're going to randomly choose the questions. All the standards are an equal percentage, but you don't know what questions are going to be on there, right? So we went and looked at those individual questions. The winter had a lot more of those absolute words, such as best, most, strongest for the answers. 25 of the 75 questions had those words in them, which is a much higher percentage than the actual ACT. So we felt like that would be one of the contributing factors. One of the other factors was the winter test had a lot wordier questions than the fall test. The fall test had questions that were a lot quicker to answer, and so the winter had some wordier questions. The winter also has some ELA-specific vocabulary that really hits language. But if you've looked at our curriculum maps, we really, when we looked at critical standards, we're very reading heavy. We are not language heavy. And so some of that vocabulary is not necessarily coming out in our critical standards. So that was something that we noticed. I do know some of the high schools, especially with 11th graders, are coming in and tying in those standards with bell ringers and different things to really hit some of those vocabulary words. They use that data and really saw the need. So they are doing that. And I'm not going to be one to blame the test. I do think our students are still close to benchmark, but I did want to research why that drop occurred. And then in math,
Were these taken individually? So took English at one time, they didn't take the full test?
11th grade took the full test,
11th grade.
but the others did not.
Okay.
Yes. We try and give them as much exposure as possible.
Sure, to the time.
And actually, I'm really excited because in the spring, At Scott County High School, we have the capability to test 9th, 10th, and 11th. The 9th and 10th are going to take USA Test Prep on ACT Day. So they're going to get the full experience starting in 9th grade. ECS has that capability, and Great Crossing is going to be able to do that with 10th graders too. And then we have a plan to kind of get moving with 9th grade too. So I'm really excited about the number of exposures we're going to have to that style of assessment, which we've talked about before. Math, we're doing great. We're really close to the benchmark, especially, 10th grade is meeting it, 11th grade is exceeding that benchmark. And we had a little, they pretty much stayed the same from fall to winter. In reading, we really saw some great growth with this assessment. And like I said, the curriculum maps are really reading heavy. And a lot of teachers, they're really doing a great job with the novel approach and those literature circles that they've implemented that Deborah really worked hard to get them trained and get them moving. So they're really strategically reading well in their classroom, and they're really learning how to comprehend and interpret that text, which I think shows with some of these scores. Overall, we are just really proud of our schools. In all of our learning walks, we always have things that we want to come back and share with the team and brag on what schools are doing. We're seeing great things with learning goals and success criteria and how they're using it. Formative assessments. I was doing some learning walks today, and I saw formative assessment in almost every single classroom. It was fantastic, and that quality feedback. And so what we're doing is really working, and I think that even though our scores aren't where they were, we knew that was going to happen, but we're truly on track to reach those goals, and we know that we have set reasonable goals and benchmark goals to get to those 23, 24 goals. Are there any questions about that before Paul talks to you about Collab Day? Okay.
I appreciate it all.
Thank you.
Just real quickly, you know that tomorrow is Collab Day. It's our second Collab Day for this year. We really have given a lot of power to the schools this time around. We pulled more groups last time and had them working. This time, a lot of the work is going to take place at the schools, and they're going to be continuing the work, looking at their curriculum maps, their assessments, doing the things that they need to do to prepare for how are we going to account for having missed several days now. We know we have quite a bit still to cover, and what are we going to do for the rest of this school year. But we are also continuing our work with our DEI training. So Dr. Cleveland will be back again tomorrow at ECS. He'll be working in the morning with about 90 or so high school teachers and middle school teachers. And then in the afternoon, we're going to get some elementary school teachers in there as well. We're starting with our special area teachers because those are the ones who see all of our students. And so we're going to start with those first and get them, and interventionists, that's right, yes, and interventionists as
So
well.
I know the first time we focused was English and social studies because of the nature of the conversation. I thought that was a good start too.
Right,
So this time
right.
I guess you're pulling in.
It's, yeah, different,
Just from the high school
different
level, math,
categories,
science.
yes,
different
yes,
categories. Okay.
yes, exactly.
That's great.
Yeah, so we're excited to continue that work as well. When we did that in the fall, it was met with rave reviews, and
Yeah, I
but
attended.
basically everybody said, we need everybody to see this. So we're really looking forward to continuing that work. And elementary is excited to get in there as well and be a part of that. So again, excited that the groups that don't normally get to meet together have an opportunity to meet together tomorrow, and are going to be doing some collaboration. And then there's going to be a lot of great work we know going on at the schools.
All right, well, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thanks, guys.
And it certainly has been a minute since we've gotten our map reports, but we all have been talking about that for some
Yes.
time, and given the nature of where the climate has been, so thank you for putting that together for us.
Absolutely.
Number 10, approve the establishment of a booster club for the Great Crossing High School dance team. All in favor? Those opposed? Motion carries. Number 11, do I have a motion to create positions 11A through K? Do I have any questions about any of the positions that are proposed?
Yes. Scroll back up. I'm sorry, it's not this one. It's
coming.
So these are about our different creation of positions? Okay, so you're good? Okay, all in favor? Those opposed? Motion carries. Number 12, approve to add $2,000 stipend for public school speech language pathologists that have active certificates of clinical competence.
Move.
All in favor? Those opposed? Motion carries. Number,
Sorry. Can we go back to 11B? That's what it was. My screen was skipping around. So it's the, to pay for the ag teacher, out of ESSER funds at one middle school. My only question is, if other middle schools were to ask for that, would we grant that as well?
Or,
If they
I'm not the
chose.
board, so I don't know that I can.
Oh, yeah, that's what I'm asking. You know, like if we do it for one, you know, would we
Well,
do it?
currently neither of the other middle schools have that position, and I think that, Royal Spring has been hit hard by some factors, doing the student numbers. And, you know, I know that Career Tech Ed is certainly something that the board has been really eager, not just agriculture, but just anything Career Tech Ed, they've been really eager, you all been really eager to ensure.
Right, I mean, I'm saying like,
that.
let's not just do this one, let's do it across the board, you know, if there was a chance that we could extend the funds.
Again, I think that this is a situation where Royal Spring has demonstrated their desire to do it, and things were looking tough for this coming school year, so this is an opportunity for the board to weigh in on that.
And is this just for this year?
Yes.
Corinda, where did I end that? I'm on 13, aren't I?
You're on 13.
Okay, I just want to make sure everything is registered, votes, and we're ready to move on. Okay, number 13, approve Future Farmers of America Middle School Stipend retroactive for 2021-2022 school year.
Second.
All in favor? Those opposed? Motion carries. Number 14, approval of, give me a minute here, I'm sorry, Family Resource Youth Service Centers program plans for the 2022, 2023, and 2024 fiscal years.
Second.
All in favor? Those opposed? Motion carries. Number 15, approve to award general school and instructional supply bid for the fiscal year 2022-2023.
Second.
All in favor? Those opposed? Motion carries. Number 16, approve rental agreement with Kentucky Horse Park for use of Great Crossing High School Prom 2022.
Move.
All in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Number 17, approve to renew bid for bus driver and classified employee physicals and administration of the Adult Substance Abuse Program for fiscal year 2022-2023.
Second.
All in favor? Those opposed? Motion carries. Number 18, approve renewal of the student athletic accident insurance.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Number 19, approve renewal of fidelity bond on the board's treasurer and director of accounting.
Do we specify who to, or just as for the?
Pardon me?
As presented, we're in a renewal.
Right.
Making sure.
As presented, she asked for as presented, or,
We had multiple bids.
but it was a renewal.
It's a renewal, so it's.
Renewal of,
Okay, so
yeah.
we're good.
Correct.
All in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Number 20, approve renewal of school treasurer bookkeeper bonds for fiscal year 2022-2023.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Approve renewal of drug testing service bid for 2022-2023.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Number 22, approve SBDM Section 6 allocations for fiscal year 2023.
Move.
All in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Number 23, approve Section 7 funding.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Number 23, approve Section 7 funding. Sorry, we just did that, sorry. I'm trying to get my screen to move again. Here we go, sorry, got it, I got it now.
Jan.
Yep, goodness.
I
Just
got
did, yep,
the financial report for January 2022. Our beginning balance was a little over 30 million. Our receipts of 21 million, expenditures of 22.7 million, leaving our ending cash balance at 28.1 million. Any questions?
no, thank you. Number 25, approve current bills.
Move.
All in favor? Those opposed? Motion carries. Number 26, superintendent's report.
All right, so I'll just try to run through this kind of quick, but I feel like I've got a lot. Standard 1, strategic leadership. Had a meeting today, and this has been just some work that we've been doing the past few weeks, meeting with our judge executive, Joe Pack Covington, and also representatives from Spectrum. That's the company that'll be putting in the countywide broadband. And we were really just trying to arrive at what needs existed and what the district may look at doing for providing services and ensuring that we're addressing lower income families with this. And it ends up, they already have a program in place that's around it's around $17.99 a month. And there's also currently some sort of rebate program that's out there as well. So in the end, it's nothing. It costs nothing for them. So as this rolls out here over the next 2 years, we'll be working hand in hand as they light up different areas of the community, we'll be working to make sure that as that's happening, we're communicating out to our families, hey, you've now got access. And because they may be thinking, well, yeah, sure, but we maybe can't afford it. Well, if they understand that this opportunity exists, that would definitely be worthwhile for them. So that was.
That's gonna be one of my questions, if we were gonna help advertise that.
Yes, well,
To those folks.
currently, so.
This is the process you need to go through.
Sure. And the understanding I have from the fiscal court is they're expecting some sort of website that will be available to the community so that they'll know when their area is gonna come light up, I guess, or come live. So certainly they'll be able to be paying attention to it as it comes. But then once it gets there, we'll make sure to communicate that out. So it'll be a good way for us to kind of walk in lockstep, us, the county, and Spectrum, and making sure that that's out there. Because certainly we also wonder, because we've already got 20,000 homes currently that have Spectrum available to them, and we're not sure, maybe all the homes that it's available to aren't aware of that program currently. So we want to make sure that we communicate that out. We did talk about the fact that we might be better served if we hold off and communicate that out at the first school, since we as a district also should be in a situation where we are one-to-one at that time. And with that said, it all kind of goes hand in hand. So,
Works great.
yep. KDE facilities meeting. So had a meeting on Friday in which you all are aware from our conversations that there has been an issue with KDE facilities as far as if they will allow you to use your restricted funds to pay for any athletic facilities on middle or high school campuses. And it's been a situation where they've used common sense in the past, and they've looked at it and they've acknowledged the fact that if communities are after that, nobody wants to build a high school with no athletic complementary facilities with it. That just doesn't make sense. Right. So, and you can drive by every day and see its use by the school system and the entire community. But with that said, we had a very good conversation, and they understood the situation of equity that would exist between the two high schools if we were to have done for one and not be able to do for the other. So there's a state board meeting coming up in April We're working with KD Facilities folks to make sure that the information that they need from us to help, so I guess, prove our point and explain to them kind of where we're coming from here helps to make that a non-issue. I will say on Wednesday, I guess it was Wednesday of last week, Garrett County and Washington County applied for the same waiver that we're going to be reaching out and asking for. Their circumstances are slightly different, but it's still the same kind of overall situation where they're asking to use restricted funds for their athletic facilities, and they were granted that waiver. So I know us and Mercer County, it seems like me and Jason Brewer just end up, doesn't matter, we end up, we're always doing the same thing, it seems like. So they're dealing with the same thing at the same time, so we'll be working through that together. Under Standard 2, Instructional Leadership, we had TRI planning days, and while it would appear that was for naught, we did still make sure that we had a plan and we were ready for TRI if the need ever arose for those days. Site visits have started, and we've been through 4 or 5 of them at this point. Paul, does that sound about right? Yeah. So we had some we were able to catch here at this point, and then we've got some things coming up next week that might delay us running through site visits and getting those knocked out. But it's been wonderful to get a chance to get into schools and get to see students and some of the things that we've got going on there. Next up in Standard 2, long-term professional development plans. I had a wonderful meeting, I guess it was last Friday morning, in which the curriculum, instruction, assessment, and student support team met here in this room, and we talked about different things. We talked about, professional development needs within our schools, among elementary, middle, and high, and also some of the things that we talked about was some of the back to basics kinds of stuff. I wasn't in the district when we had APL, but I saw the impact that it made. It's just one of those things for me that it's, maybe every industry is the same way, but education has that tendency to kind of go in circles, something new, something shiny. APL is not new and shiny, but it's good stuff. And it's been interesting to see how many people in the district that have, been here a little while, that have been through that, understand that, hey, yeah, that is right. And we're seeing too, where just as our students have gaps, some of our teachers are having gaps too, and some things that they would normally just get through interactions through a normal course of years, they're not getting. So it kind of levels the playing field, I guess, for everybody. And so we're looking at some of those things that we need to look at to get everybody kind of at that minimum competency on certain things before we then vary out to be more school specific with PD. So it was just, I had a really good time. I was really glad that Deborah and Paul made sure that I had it on my calendar so that I could be there for it, because it was a great meeting that morning. Cultural leadership. Damian Nichols passed here this past week, and he worked for us at Scott County High School. He was a coach and an instructional assistant there at the high school. He was also a class of Scott County High School '96, so I knew him quite well, and I just I just cannot be more proud of the way Scott County High School opened their doors and their hearts to their family and did everything they could to ease the family through that troubling time. So I just wanted to just kind of acknowledge Mr. Nichols' contributions to the district and the fact that his school community, Scott County High School, really, it was a wonderful experience to see everybody pulling together to really just remember and acknowledge the significance of Dave's contributions to our community and our students. Also under cultural leadership, speaking of site visits, Royal Spring Middle School, they had a lot of really great things going on with Black History Month. They had an opportunity where there was a student-led component to that, and it was just, sometimes things just happen for a reason. I came out of Heather Brown's office after they were telling me about this one thing that they were doing, and the student who came up with the idea was just, I was like, well, hey, we might want to just go talk to him. Comes right up, and he saw for the first time that they had implemented something that he had requested, and they had surveyed students, and students got to participate in it, and it was a very touching moment for me. And I just want to commend Royal Spring Middle School on the effort that they've been making Black History Month, really a significant part of February for sure. Standard 4, Human Resource Leadership. Option 7, Task Force. So Option 7 is an option that exists out there to get individuals certified to teach. And CKEC, the Central Kentucky Educational Cooperative that we're a part of, they are trying to do some creative things with Option 7. They've been running into roadblocks, and as a result, KD created this task force, and so myself and several other superintendents have been a part, and we're just trying to work through the details of that and provide school districts with one other option to get people certified so that they are qualified and available for our students. Assistant Superintendent of Student Learning has been posted, so I'm just kind of throwing that out there, making sure that that was known, because we had talked about that, and we'll be looking to get that hired hopefully before spring break if all goes well. And then allocation meetings have started. You know, when we got to creating those positions, a lot of those positions, I think you were asking some good questions there about the ag position. You know, these are the kinds of things that we need to have answers to so that we can get in those allocation meetings and really make sure that our schools are set up for success next school year. With regard to specifically those intervention positions at the elementary level, you know, elementary's been hit really hard with the loss of the Math Achievement Fund grant and the Read to Achieve grant. You know, as a elementary principal myself, I think every school I was at, I had both of those. I mean, that's 2 positions, you know, and that's 2 positions that some of our schools lost because the grant changed so drastically that it just did not make monetary sense for us to continue down that path. So, yeah, so I appreciate your all's approval on that one for sure, and I know our schools will as well. Standard 5, just navigating school closures through a variety of issues, you know, be it COVID-related staffing issues that came or weather-related issues. Standard 6, collaborative leadership.
Can I just want
Yeah.
to comment on, I got a lot of really good feedback from the way you handled those closures. In terms of, well, Edward Nash, for example, the communication that went out, the way it went out. I got a lot of people who commented that they appreciated the explanation and that it was very helpful. So I just wanted to give you that.
Right, and I'm speaking of those closures. I know when we entered that period where we thought we might need to use some selective school closures with those TRI days, you know, we were trying to be really careful. And I think to a point we ended up not using them for a few days, and then people were like, "Well, why are you telling us all the schools are up?" And I was like, "Well, yeah, but." You know, but then we finally got to that point where we felt like we were out of the woods. And,
Like I said, I just want to have a lot of people comment, but I appreciate it.
Collaborative leadership, the National Weather Service winter storm briefing. So I didn't even know that this was a thing. And then Harry Burchett, who's superintendent in Harrison County, he comes to us from a different region of Kentucky, and this was something that as weather came through, the National Weather Service would have these meetings, and as a storm system comes through, they would have meetings sometimes 3 times a day to talk about the updates of where it is. So as the ice storm was kind of rolling through, we were trying to have the most up-to-date information we could have. You know, in the end, I think they still were kind of slightly off, but at the end of the day, we were able to go with the most recent information we had, and it's a resource that we will use moving forward. And I just thought it was something neat and something that I've really appreciated the relationship that we've had with Harrison County through Superintendent Burchett, and so I just wanted to throw that out there as something that I feel can be significant as we're moving forward. The mask optional announcement, which was also something that was really done through the collection of, I mean, and I've told a lot of people it's the same kind of thing, but then it's kind of totally different. And what I mean by that is we were looking at the same things. You know, we were looking at our local numbers. We were looking at hospitalizations. We were looking at cases in the county. So none of that changed, but what we were seeing changed. So, you know, to speak to that at the height, you know, our lowest student attendance day was less than 80%. Today we're at 92.54%. You know, the Scott County school cases were so high that schools were shut down, and I couldn't tell you from one day to the next what the numbers were because we didn't have staff working some days, and sometimes weather would get involved in that, and we really didn't know, because we didn't have staff in, how accurate those numbers were or anything like that. At the end of the day, we knew they were high, but today we had 10 student cases and 0 staff cases, which is definitely great to hear. WEDCO's cases that they report for our county on the 24th of January, they reported 873 cases for our community. Today, 24 cases. So again, we're seeing everything going in the right direction. Hospitals, the hospitalization at the time, at their height, they were full, and hospitals were not transferring patients. Now we're seeing the number of stays and the length of stays, they have significantly decreased. So again, everything that we looked at this entire time, we're still looking at those same things, but it's totally different what we're seeing. And then, the other piece to this is we did consistently make sure that we were receiving guidance and recommendations from our local public health officials, and they helped us in arriving at the decision that was arrived at. And I just want to tell you all, I appreciate your all support as we walk through this and try to walk through making this transition, because I know it's a transition it's a transition like everything else for the past few years. You've got people everywhere on the issue and nobody's ever going to be happy. If COVID's taught us anything, I think that's one thing that it has for sure taught me.
But if I might, this is exactly what this board planned for when it authorized Superintendent Parker to make modifications when he was consulting with the health department. That's now come to fruition. You're seeing the fruits of that foresight and getting it ready and getting in an advanced option, if you will.
Then last but not least, Standard 7. So influential leadership. I had a meeting today with BCTC. Deborah Reed was there with me. Cannot speak highly enough of the work that they're doing over there and how well they work with us. They're the type of people, if there's an obstacle, then it's okay, well, let's just, how are we going to get around it? They don't let the obstacle keep something from happening. And we talked today about the possibility of our students having an opportunity for an associate's degree when they graduate, and then in 2 additional years, a fully transferable kind of option perhaps to UK. So they're just being super creative and pulling in all the major players to try and provide additional opportunities for our students. And I know we talk at student achievement, sometimes we're talking about student instructional data, the assessment data that we have. But for me, these are the kinds of things that matter too. What kind of opportunities are we putting forth for our students to where they can walk out the door and walk straight into participating in our community, in a job, and being successful that way. I'm on the KASA policy team, and just every week we're reviewing policies that are coming forth, and so with that, that's just something that it's helping us to arrive at how we support or oppose or are neutral on a variety of legislative issues. Let's see, House Bill 51. I've talked to some of our legislators about House Bill 51 and explained to them that I don't see that as necessary given our situation here in Scott County. And then House Bill 63. House Bill 63 is one that it deals with SROs. And with that, it talks about the importance of, what they're trying to do is establish SROs in every single school or on every single campus. Sounds great. The things about it that are concerning to me, one, is who's paying for it. 2, talk to Jason Brewer, and we were talking about it. They've had a position open for 6 months that they can't even fill. So even if the money's there, can we logistically do it? 3, the way it's currently written, it suggests that every single school would have one of these. So currently, we've got 2 at both of our high schools. So if we were in a situation where we're forced to spread that out and we don't have enough, we could be forced to take and make our high schools less safe by removing one of them to put them in a school that doesn't have them, like Eastern, that has not demonstrated the need for an SRO in a full-time fashion. So I reached out to some folks as soon as I heard that passed the House and made sure that it was crystal clear, and I offered to come and speak if need be, because again, it is one that it does. It looks great, but then when you really get into the weeds of it, there's some complexity to it that makes it not quite as awesome. Yeah, there you go. All right, well, that will conclude my superintendent's report.
My goodness. Okay, well, thank you very much.
You know, I gotta say, as I'm sitting here listening to Billy make these comments for us, these are performance standards that we're guided by as a school board and as we evaluate our superintendents, and therefore we get these reports at every meeting that we are speaking, set aside special call meetings or at work sessions. But this doesn't speak to exactly how much work that our superintendent does for us all day, every day. I don't know how many hours a day you're able to accomplish doing your job and being with your family and doing everything else. And I just want to say thank you. I know as a board chair, the amount of hours that you put in and reaching out to the legislatures and trying to do the best we can, working with Joe Pat on Spectrum, which, my goodness, how can that greatly just affect our community next year if we could truly go one-to-one, and we've got to cross all those T's and just everything. So thank you so much. I really just want to say I appreciate that. With that, Kevin, if you'd like to add any board comments in.
I'm real good right now, thank you.
Okay, Stephanie?
I'll just put in a plug for the SEHS drama department reached out and asked me to do a cameo in their spring musical, so I'm going to do that.
Fun.
So yeah, that's going to be really fun. I'm going to be playing Professor Sprout in Puffs, so everybody should come out and see it. Yeah,
Well, that's great. Thanks for sharing that.
I'm excited.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Susan?
I don't have anything, looking forward to next weekend, learning how to be better at what I do.
Okay, at our KSBA conference that we attend every year for continuing education. All right, wonderful. Number 28.
Motion to adjourn.
All in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, everybody. Drive safely.